Greetings everyone, my name is Pato, and this is my Goku Blue guide for DBFZ Season 3. So with the new patch around the corner, character variety is higher than it has ever been, and many people are beginning to experiment with new themes as the meta slowly settles in. Among the set winners of this patch, Goku Blue is one of the names that you may be hearing often. It is no surprise then that many players have shown interest on picking him up, now that some of his said weaknesses have been allegedly mitigated. But, is that all there is to the story? And how the hell do you even get started with him? In this video, I'll go over many of his key points, such as his neutral, offense, special moves, mix-ups, combos, and support value, as well as a general rundown of some of his pros and cons. Before I start, I would like to clarify that this guide is meant for both beginners and experienced players. The inputs referenced in this video can be more easily understood by learning the numeric annotation system, which is universal for many anime fighting games. In addition, I'll be making use of certain terms and sayings that are also common within the genre. If you're interested in having a better grasp on things, links will be provided in the description of the video. Okay, let's get started by going over some of his normals. Goku Blue shares most of his balance with his Super Saiyan counterpart, with a few important exceptions. The most noticeable one, and new to this patch, is his 2M. Unlike in Season 2, the Product 2M, as the community likes to reference it, is now unique to Goku Blue. This means its value for neutral and stagger pressure is completely unchanged, making it one of the new selling points this character has in Season 3. Aside from that, his 5L, 2L, auto combo, and 5M are also different, although these have always been the case for him. 5L is a standing low with a 10 frame startup, making it ideal to keep your opponent on their toes. Unlike the other mid-sized Gokus, his 2L also hits low, and can be repeated, although bear in mind the second hit of it will whiff unless you have previously dashed forward in your string. Even though this button has a 7 frame startup, it is not suggested you use it for something like challenging the opponent's pressure, due to the short range it has. This normal will be very important for us later in the video as one of the key ingredients of making his mix work. His auto combo, 5LL, is a very telegraphed 26 frame overhead, which also has a huge gap in the middle of his startup that is exposed to fuzzy mash, reflect, and reversals. It is suggested that you generally avoid using this in your offense, as the safe cancel options you have are limited and force you to either give up your turn, spend resources, or making non-ideal calls in your pressure. Lastly, his 5M is a huge forward advancing move that nets big reward on hit, and is ideal from confirming of certain specials, like his JS. It is suggested, however, that you don't use this normal for staggering out your pressure in your block strings, as it is unsafe on block. Instead, you can use his 4M, which has much less forward momentum, is -2 on block, and can be very ideal for frame trapping your opponent or shortening the ways they can challenge you after a jump in, as for the majority of characters, their jabs will either whiff or force a clash situation. When going over his neutral, many newcomers, and experienced players even, often struggle in fully figuring out how to approach with him. It is not too big of a surprise, as it is honestly one of his weaker points. However, the new universal changes Season 3 introduced has made things a lot easier for him. His 5S is a very solid grounded projectile that can be helpful for keeping your opponent away full screen. It is not as fast as someone like Team Gohan's, nor can you shoot it up as many times as Space Vegeta's, but it gets the job done in what it sets out to do. His JS, however, is the true star of the show. Unlike most other projectiles in the game, it holds momentum altogether, allowing you to move as you please while shooting it. When using it in conjunction with something like an instant air dash, its recovery on whiff will be lower than average, making it difficult to punish on reaction. On top of that, it is generally very plus on block, alternating between 8 and 19 frames depending on how or from where you hit the opponent, allowing you in most cases to instantly gel into something like a 5M afterwards. In my opinion, it is important you take advantage of the properties of this move, as it is very essential to the way he can reset pressure or approach you in neutral. His dive kicks, performed with a 2 and 4 input while airborne, are all very good too, for the most part. His L dive kick has both low startup and decent recovery on whiff, allowing you to comfortably approach from mid-air or even in some cases, escape corner pressure. It should be noted, however, that due to the startup and hit confirming properties, it is better left used for approaching the opponent while he's on the ground, as Goku is unable to banish or assist confirm if the dive kick had hit the opponent while they were airborne. M kick is significantly slower, so it is mostly useless in neutral. Its value resides in granting Goku sliding knockdown from most confirms, provided you hadn't already used up your smash. Last but not least, X dive kick is probably his very best special move, and the one that benefits the most from the new Season 3 changes. For one, it is his fastest dive kick, at 11 frames to startup. It is very difficult to actually combo from it, but the damage scaling on hit into something like a banish confirm or a super is quite lenient. For example, when going from a 2 and 4H confirm into Goku's level 3, the damage output hovers near around 5k in total, which is pretty crazy to think about. Because it always grants a sliding knockdown on hit, the move can also be used more comfortably to punish approaches from mid-air or to safely end overly long combos. But it doesn't stop there. On black, Goku teleports about where the opponent is standing, and is minus enough to be virtually unpunishable while mid-air. This also allows you to either safely escape pressure, or bait out certain actions you think your opponent may commit to after blocking. Aside from neutral, this move is also one of the cornerstones for Goku's mix-up game, which will be discussed further down the road. His shoulder specials, performed with a 236 input, are more difficult to tackle. No pun intended, of course. L shoulder is one of the moves with highest priority in the game, and has enough range to make it the perfect ground star option. On hit, it scales like a medium, allowing you to easily set up a situation where you can one-touch your opponent after knocking him back into the ground. It doesn't, however, go as far as something like an actual lariat, forcing you to rethink how you want to use it when trying to get into someone. And even though it is safe on block, you won't be able to backdash from most characters' jabs, as it is -5. M shoulder goes much farther, but is significantly slower on both the startup and recovery on whiff. It does, however, possess anti-ki blast properties, so it can be useful when making the read on an opponent who's overcommitting to her zoning. X shoulder is a very mixed bag all around. It is often one of Goku Blue's most misused moves, as people overestimate its actual value in neutral. It is a 28-33 frame shoulder tackle that teleports to the other side of the screen and only starts being invulnerable very later on its startup. When attempting to beat it, one can just simply backdash it on reaction and punish it with a medium or heavy bottom. It can, however, prove even more so useful to counter zoning than its M counterpart, as it is ki blast invulnerable from frame 1 instead of 4. To wrap up this section, let's talk about his instant transmission, performed with either 214S or 326S. It's not very good. In neutral, it is 35 frames to start up for same side and 40 frames for the cross-up, while only starting being invulnerable between frame 16 and 20, making it tricky to deal with stuff like super dash or attacks with anti-air properties on the ground. Although it is actually +1 on block for both variants, it also makes it so there is virtually no air pressure to speak of, nor more headroom in how you play RPS against the opponent. It can have some uses, like punishing something on whiff where 236 won't reach, but for the most part it is a very situational special. Now, let's get into mix. There is actually another set of special moves Goku Blue has, which are his command grabs, performed with a 2 and 4 input while on the ground. 2 and 4L is one of the very best grabs there are in this game, with the caveat of it being triggered to set up the most. For one, Goku needs to space himself out when trying to connect it. There are 2 ways you can do this, although both of them so require you to do the same thing. The first one is to microdash after you have connected your attack. It is recommended you do this from those buttons that leave you closer to the opponent, so there is less startup involved when you dash in. The second is by tick throwing, which requires you to be right up close to the opponent before your attack, and then go for the throw as soon as you are out of block stun, so you won't get the follow-up that occurs on whiff instead. This works with IL, 2L, and JS. At 17 frames of startup, it is virtually impossible to react to. On hit, it grants a slight knockdown with the new Season 3 changes, but it still allows you to combo from it using assist. His M grab, however, is a different story. Although it goes much farther than its L variant, and allows you to perform a full combo from it solo if landing in the corner, having 30 frames of startup and no follow-up on whiff kills all potential utility it could have. It's basically only useful for calling out reflect or against a very sleepy opponent. His H grab is more difficult to speak about. It sort of tries to have the best of both worlds, but also ended up excelling at anything. It's 2 frames faster than its M counterpart, but also has double the sound cues. It does, however, allow you to combo mid-screen from it, and has a follow-up on whiff that's useful for those cases where the opponent is too late on punishing you for trying to grab them. Overall, I'll say you should use it at your own discretion. I personally find it more valuable than 2 and 4M, but still not nearly as good in utility as 2 and 4L. In regards to actual high-low mix, Goku Blue has a lot to work with, especially in this new season. For one, his J236H grants him now air actions on block, allowing him to go for mix afterwards. The move, however, is still too slow to connect on a string, so it is something more situational. As other characters with a fast-low option, he can also do Super Dash plus assist call for a high-low mix that's very difficult to fuzzy guard in the corner. But the real meat on the bone is his J214H mix, which is a guaranteed lockdown with the right assist and gives you an actual 50-50 no matter where you situate on the screen. As if that wasn't good enough, you can also go for a 2 and 4L tick throw right after the air dash JL during the mix. This forces the opponent to guess 2 times in the same sequence, which in retrospect is really messed up. When combining all of this with the other mix-up options he has, like a standing low, a safe 2M for staggers, or a very big JM for cross-ups, plus the changes to the universal mechanics introduced this season, it is safe to say he's now one of the most versatile characters in the roster when it comes to opening you up. When discussing his support value, I'm very happy to say things have improved tenfold since Season 2. Like all the other characters, he has now 3 assists to choose from. The first is his dive kick, which in my opinion already has certain good qualities in the past, but was heavily held back by the reward he gave. Now, with the additional ground bounce to it, getting hit confirms is practically a breeze, and combo extensions are very easy to get by. The hit stun is also generous enough to guarantee you ground DR from practically anywhere on the screen. The only real negative point I can think of that it has now, and which is new to this patch, is that it is exposed to anti-air attacks, much like Gogeta's Type A assist. His Type B assist is his shoulder tackle, which is all in all your standard strike assist. It is faster, but also doesn't travel as far, and you're more limited on what you can do with it for extensions, due to this hit stun and the lack of wall bounce on hit. It can be more ideal for certain shells, but I don't really think it is as good as his Type A. Type C is similar to other ones of its kind. It has a long startup and cooldown time, but it makes up for it on the air track and in hit stun it provides. For those who choose the wrong Goku point, it could make for a pretty decent choice, but I personally still find it unorthodox to use. The consensus on Type C assist in general hasn't been clearly defined yet, so you should experiment and find out for yourself how much value it brings to your team. Okay, we have finally reached the end of the video. Let's make a brief summary of all of his pros and cons. Let's start out with the pros. He has very solid balance all around, particularly his 2M and his 4-5M, fast ki blast and specials to keep himself mobile, exceptional frame data and stagger pressure that force your opponent rethinking how to challenge your offense, top tier mix-up potential with his J214H and 214L, versatile DHC supers, good Oki and corner carry from many confirmed thanks to his J214M, insanely high damage output and mirror build, both among some of the highest in the game, and a very competent type A assist. Among his cons, one can mention lack of reliable ways for approaching full screen, needing to commit to more unsafe options solo, mediocre M and H grabs, heavy reliance on assist to make the most out of his pressure, as he can't function well by himself, and lastly, a very high skill ceiling of play for both his execution and neutral. This has pretty much been it for me. For the later part of this video, I'll be showcasing both BNBs and optimal routes that you can attempt to learn as you begin to pick them up. If there are any questions or feedback you wish to send my way, please leave a comment down below, or hit me up on my Discord, which will be provided in the description. Likes are also very much appreciated. Thanks for watching, let's meet another time.